Hello, and thank you for tuning in to our office's tax webinar. I'm Angela Rella, Senior Constituent Representative for Congressman Paul Tonko. Today we'll be hearing from experts and representatives at the IRS and the Taxpayer Advocate Service, who will provide you with the information that you need to file your taxes. We have with us Kevin McKean, Chief of the Congressional District Liaison Branch at the IRS, and Wendy Figueroa, Local Taxpayer Advocate at the Taxpayer Advocate Service. Before we get to these presenters, however, Congressman Tonko would like to share a brief message with all of you.
Hi all, and thank you for joining this webinar on tax filing season. Last month, leading up to the tax filing season, I held a webinar with the Volunteer Income Tax Assistance, or VITA program, which offers free tax preparation assistance to eligible individuals across our region. Now, with the 2026 tax season in full swing, I'm proud to be joined today by representatives from the IRS, including the Taxpayer Advocate Service, an independent organization within the IRS. They'll provide the information and assistance you need to help this year's tax return go as smoothly as possible. Thank you to these experts for taking their time to share their knowledge and resources with us. And thank you to those who are tuning in. Following this webinar, if you have any questions or if our office can be of assistance to you about any federal issues, I encourage you to reach out. My door is always open. Thanks again and enjoy the presentation.
Okay, thank you, Congressman Tonko. And now I'll turn it over to Kevin and Wendy for their presentations. Take it away.
Go ahead, Wendy.
All right, give me 1 second so I can share here my desktop. All right, can you see my slides?
Yes.
All right. Well, thank you everybody for joining us today. I am, like they said, Wendy Figueroa, and I am representing the Taxpayer Advocate Service in Albany, New York. And today I'm going to give you some tips that we have learned throughout the years, some of the issues that we have with taxpayer filing returns and that we see in the Taxpayer Advocate. And the first thing that I wanted to talk to you about is finding some tax return preparation. That is so important, right? Because we wanted to prevent you having some delays and errors on your tax returns. And the first thing that I wanted to point it out is the free help that we have. We have the Volunteer Income Tax Assistant program, and we also have the tax counseling for the elderly. In these links that will be provided to you with this presentation, you will be able to go in there and find out information. What kind of information should you bring? And also where to find the nearest office. But for the VITA program, we have volunteers that assist taxpayers that had an income of $67,000 or less, also persons with disabilities, and those limited English speaking taxpayers can also get help there. For the tax counseling for the elderly, we have availability for those that are 60 years old or older, and there are volunteers that have expertise when it comes to retirement incomes and also all of the issues that could affect potentially seniors. So the next thing that I have for you guys is the free preparation, the free file. We have this one is available for those taxpayers that have income of $84,000 or less. And this is a program that is a public partnership between the IRS and many tax return preparation filing software industry providers. So it's an online service, and it will ask you a few questions, and it will help you to, complete your return online free. But if you do not qualify for that free because your income threshold is above the $84,000. We can also have the free fillable forms that you can use, but for those, you will have to have a little bit of expertise on completing your tax return, utilizing for instructions or publications. In addition, if you cannot utilize those services, the IRS also have a directory of federal tax return preparer with credentials and select qualifications that you can look online in irs.gov. Again, the link will be provided with this presentation, and you will see you can go in there and select one based on your needs, depending on what kind of income you have, schedules, etc. The other thing that we have in the Taxpayer Advocate Service, we will also have two different links attached there. One that provides some information about filing returns or how to choose a tax return preparer. There are so many things that you have to look and be aware, because we don't want you to select somebody that could potentially be what we call a ghost return preparer. Most of those, they are not registered. Some of them do not even include any other information on the tax return, and if you face any problems, sometimes you will not be able to contact them again after filing your tax return. So we want you to avoid selecting that kind of preparers. In the next slide, we wanted to obviously encourage you to e-file because this is the easiest way to get your return process faster and most of the time more accurately than filing a paper return. But we wanted to watch out for software that imports prior year data automatically, because sometimes we have seen errors when they come to Taxpayer Advocate Service, when they look at the return, and sometimes the income has been duplicated. So you wanted to make sure that you're looking into that. And another thing that we encourage you to do is the use of direct deposit in direct pay. For 2025 returns filed in 2026, that is something that's going to be critical for you because you will have to include direct deposit information unless you qualify for an exception or you're willing to go and experience delay. So this is very important. And the most important part of this, which is new this year, is that if you're using direct deposit, we want to encourage you to use your own bank account, because we see a lot of cases that come to our office where taxpayers have used friends or spouses or other people's bank account, and later on you could potentially lose your refund if it's deposited in the wrong bank account. Another thing that we see every year and is, a lot of taxpayers utilize the last pay stub to file their tax return. So we encourage not to do that. Just wait for your year-end statement. Most of the employers and payers should have sent it already because they have until January 31st to do so. But if you have not received yours, we encourage you that you contact your employer or your payer. But I'm also going to be talking about some of the ways that you can get the accurate information in the next couple of slides. But very important also, including any digital assets, forms 1099 and 1099-K. And the reason why I talked about the importance of filing your tax return, utilizing the W-2s in the correct form, is because we do have an IRS integrity and verification operations in the IRS. And this department compares the income and the withholding information reported on the tax returns and match that with the IRS records. In this program wants to ensure accuracy of the tax return, but also that no fraudulent refunds are displayed and issued by the IRS. So that's why it's so important. And one of the things that happen when you get caught up in this verification program is that it requires a person to validate the income tax return information with the payers. And sometimes this is a manual process and it takes a long time, and you could potentially have delays of 6 months or more sometimes. So this is one of the main things that we see in the Taxpayer Advocate Service, this type of discrepancies, and sometimes people will have to end up sometimes securing additional information or having to file an amended return. So we want you to, if you don't get the right information, we want you to go to your employer, but there are also other ways to secure the right information. You can contact the IRS at 1-800-829-1040. They have available representative from Monday to Friday from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. But we also have available tax records and transcript on our online account, so you can verify your records. They should be available March 1st. And in the IRS transcripts, you will be able to secure your W-2s for W-2G for 1099, etc. So very important. But if you are going to go online to set up an account, one of the things that you will have to do is to set up an ID.me account. And give me 1 second. I'm trying to go to the next slide. Okay. All right. So the ID.me account, you're gonna have to be 18 years or older. You're gonna have to provide identity using your state or federal identification to set up that. You will need to take a video selfie to match your face to the picture on your identification. And to set up the IRS account with ID.me, you're going to need a driver's license, state identification, passport, or passport card. You will also need internet access to support a video call, a working camera on your phone, tablet, or desktop, and a U.S. phone number that accepts text or phone calls. If you want to learn more about ID.me, you can go online to the links on the slide, or you can also use this QR scan that, and it will take you straight to it. And this is very good to do with the IRS, but other government agencies are also utilizing the ID.me. So once you set up this, it will facilitate the use of other federal government websites that require authentication. Once you set up the IRS online account, and when you go into the transcript, you might be able to get account transcript, return transcript, but for purposes of this, we are showing the wage and income transcript, which is like a W-2 transcript right here. And this is how it kind of like show in the system. Right, let me show you the next slide. It's going to show the Social Security, and sometimes it's going to be, you're not going to be able to see for privacy reasons the entire Social Security number, but there's a way to do it in the system that you might be able to unmask that. Okay, so in these slides, it's also showing the transcript, going to show your employer information. It's going to show also your information and what kind of submission it is. And this one is a W-2, so it's going to show your wages and tips and other compensation, the federal withholding, Social Security wages, and it will show pretty much all the information that you have available in a W-2. Over here also we can see that it have, Medicare tax withheld, Social Security tips, and every deferred compensation, that you may have in there. Could be employee contributions to health savings account, combat pay, etc. So all that information you can secure utilizing the online transcript system once you get registered and create an account. All right, so going back into what else you need to do, very important, double check that your information is correct for you, your spouse, and your dependent. Like I said, if your W-2 information is not correct, you wanted to first go to your employer or contact the IRS to get a corrected copy, a correct copy. Employers are the ones that correct any errors, but you might be able, if it's corrected and you don't receive it, you might be able to get that also from the IRS account. Double check the information for your dependents. And again, talking about the bank account, we have seen a lot of issues with the bank account being incorrect. And that's something that sometimes we are not able to assist taxpayers get their money if the bank account was incorrect and we're not able to secure that money back. So that's very important. You want to check the social security numbers and everything, your address. You wanted to check all that information before you file your return. You wanted to check for all the credits and deductions for which you may be eligible. And we're going to talk in the next few slides. There's going to be a link there that will take you to some of the credit and deductions that you could look into, the requirements and what kind of information you need. But I'm not going to touch specifically on all of those. But you wanted to make sure that everything, if you see the tax return and you see that there is a credit in the line and it says something that attach, you wanted to make sure that any line that have entries that you attach whatever is schedule or form needs to be attached to the tax return. And if you have withholding, you wanted to include any document, W-2, 1099, that shows that withholding if you're filing in paper. And for purposes of this presentation, and I mentioned that I was not going to go over all the credits and deductions that you may be eligible, but I wanted to talk a little bit about the earned income tax credit requirements, because this is one of the credits that we see the most. And because of the amount of taxpayers that claim this credit, it is subject sometimes, to review and audits. So we wanted to make sure that you don't have any problems and that you claim this credit, because there are some consequences of claiming this credit incorrectly. But we have an online tool that you can use, the EITC assistant tool. It will ask you, sorry about that. It will ask you for some questions to determine if you can claim this credit. You must have Social Security for yourself, your spouse, and any qualifying children before the due date of the return, including extension. And this is very important. So you have to file the tax return as married filing jointly, head of household, qualified widow or widower, or single. In other words, in order to claim this credit, you cannot file married filing separately. You must be a U.S. citizen or resident alien all year. You can't file Form 2555 or 2555 EZ. And you have to meet the rules for those without a qualifying child or those that have a qualifying child. Another requirements, you have to have earned income, have investment income of $11,000 or less, and again, have a Social Security number by the due date of the return. And you also have to meet the adjusted gross income for your filing status, and be a U.S. citizen or resident alien. So this links in the slide is a tools for you. Again, you have the EITC assistant tool, but also we have some Get Help page in Taxpayer Advocate website, and also the EITC page in IRS.gov that you wanted to visit and make sure that you're claiming this credit correctly. We also have information about the most common EITC errors. And the last check there, if you go here, you will be able to see the most common errors. But just to point, the ones that we see the most is when taxpayers are claiming a child who does not meet residency or relationship requirement, or those reporting income or expenses in Schedule C incorrectly, and that would be for self-employed taxpayers, or those filing single or head of household when they are married. This is really a big one. And name and Social Security numbers errors. And like I mentioned, there are some consequences of claiming this. Sometimes you could be banned for 2 years or 10 years if the IRS deemed that you claim this credit fraudulently. You may be required to also attach a Form 8962 to your tax return, and that is one of the ways where we hold the refund for a while, because it happened very often because taxpayers forget if they have been audited before to include that form with the tax return. And like I mentioned earlier, this is the link where you can get some more information about credits and deductions for individuals on irs.gov. And I'm not sure if Kevin will touch any of the credits, but this is here, the slide where you can get some more information about it. In the next slide, attach all required forms and schedules before you submit your return. I think I touched a little bit on that. Any for entries on the form that have numbers there, you wanted to make sure that if it says that you have to attach, for example, if you're claiming child tax credit, you'll be required to attach the Form 8812. If you're claiming the EITC, you will have to attach also Schedule EIC. Make sure that you look in there, and make sure that everything that says attach, you attach. And the most important part, again, is the signature. A lot of taxpayers filing in paper, they submit the returns, they're eager to send, and they forget the signature. So always also make sure the signatures are there. Then we have filed your tax return on the IRS address. If you, for any reason, are not able to file your tax return electronically, and if you have to file the return in paper, make sure that you always go and verify where to file, because the addresses sometimes change, and also the different campuses processing the returns. So you want to make sure you send it to the right place, so it is not returned to you or lost in the mail. And last but not least, I wanted to give you information also about a tool that we have. Taxpayer Advocate Service generally come into place where when you already file your tax return and you encounter any problems, whether it's that you have a balance due and you have to get some kind of resolution or assistance in getting a payment plan, or in trying to put your account on collectible, or if you have your refund and it's been a long time that you have been waiting, no letters, or you try to communicate with the IRS for any reason, lost payments, lost refunds, and you're not able to get assistance, you can come to Taxpayer Advocate. And one way to know whether you meet the requirements to come into our office is utilizing our tool online, and we'll ask you a few questions, and then they will tell you, oh, okay, so yes, you should come to the Taxpayer Advocate for assistance, and it will direct you to the different locations and what you need to do, where to file your 4911 for assistance. And last but not least, on the presentation, I wanted to give you all the ways that you have to know more about the Taxpayer Advocate Service. You can stay connected. We have also the website in Spanish, and we have the roadmaps, information about tax professionals, and lots of information. So I hope that this information is helpful to you. Just wanted to make sure, and Taxpayer Advocate, that you file your tax return and that everything goes well and you get your expected refund, or if you have a balance due, that everything go okay and you don't have any issues or things that potentially could cause you to have any issues with penalties and interest. So I hope that you find this helpful. And now I'll give it back to Kevin.
Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen here. I think you maybe have to stop sharing. Let me just get this back over here. Stop sharing. It says I'm sharing. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and share my resource page that I have. And I think you should be able to see that. So I want to thank Wendy for that great information she just provided us. And also want to thank Congressman Tonko and his team for providing us this opportunity to be with you today and give you information about the tax filing season and things to look out for and do for this tax season. So basically, we are a couple of weeks when we're doing this into the 2026 tax filing season. It formally started on January 26th, and we're currently accepting and timely processing tax returns right now, and we will continue to do so as the filing season goes on. We expect that the best possible outcome for taxpayers is to file an accurate tax return to avoid any delays with your refund or processing. And Wendy's presentation had a lot of great information about filing your return. We expect to get more than 140 million individual tax returns for tax year 2025 to be filed ahead of the April 15th federal tax filing deadline. And in terms of IRS operations and processing, we're currently processing electronically filed returns, 1040 series, within a maximum of 21 days, and many electronically filed returns are processed and refunds are issued within 5 to 10 days. We have a tool on our website at irs.gov called Where's My Refund? And after folks file their return, they can go on that tool and check the status of their refund. Folks that apply for the Earned Income Tax Credit, they'll get their refunds a little bit later, starting March 2nd, because of the law that says we have to hold those refunds so additional screening can be done. As we said before, Wendy said, that is, filing electronically in combination with direct deposit, it's the fastest way to get your refund. And paper filed returns can take 4 weeks or longer to process. The first item we have here on our resource document is IRS Free File. And I know Wendy talked about that somewhat. And so if you have internet access and your income is below $84,000, you can use IRS Free File. And it's important when you use it to go through the irs.gov website. That way you can make sure that you are using the correct IRS Free File program. And what the program is, it's a public-private partnership between IRS and many tax preparation and tax software industry leaders who provide their brand name products for free. So Free File is definitely a great way to file your return for free. Now, if you don't have a computer or you're not comfortable with doing things online, you definitely want to check out another way to get your return done for free is through the VITA program, Volunteer Income Tax Assistance, and the Tax Counseling for the Elderly program, where you can go and get your returns done for free. There are some limits on those programs, but if you go to the irs.gov website, it can give you more details. And also there's a locator on there for the nearest volunteer income tax site. And then the next thing we have here is, and again, Wendy talked about this somewhat, is if you want to go to a tax preparer, make sure that you choose one wisely, because unfortunately, while most tax preparers do a great job and are very professional, there are others that are out there not so good. And we have a directory of federal tax return preparers that folks can use to find a preparer if they need one new this year. Let's see, next item we have is multilingual resources. And we are translating our resources into more languages. We have a publication called 4269 that lists additional information for people that require services in any language other than English. On the website, I believe we translate into 21 different languages. And we also have an interpretation services feature that enables us to speak in more than 350 languages with the support of professional interpreters. So we do have significant multilingual resources. And then the next item we have is the Internal Revenue Service Interactive Tax Assistant. And that is an online tool, takes you through a series of questions and provides you with responses to your tax law questions. So that's a great way to get answers. You could ask, do I need to file a tax return? Can I claim my child as a dependent? Is my IRA distribution taxable? Those are just some of the examples they can use with that feature of the interactive tax assistant. Next item, and again, we discussed it earlier, but online accounts for individuals. Great way to view your tax account online. And IRS overall, we're really moving towards, have been for the last few years, but more and more, we're moving into a kind of a digital first taxpayer experience, complemented by a strong human touch whenever it is needed. A lot of our services now that we have been putting them online, and more come on as time goes by. So online account is great for individuals to sign up for and access many of these features on that online account. Some you don't need to have the account, like where's my refund, but others, they get your transcripts, tax information, you need an online account. And you do have to go through that ID Me, as Wendy indicated. Next, if you need to go speak to IRS in person, we have taxpayer assistance centers, and you can call for an appointment after you find the nearest taxpayer assistance center near you. And again, they're listed on irs.gov. They'll help you resolve tax issues and concerns, but they do not prepare taxes for taxpayers. So you can get help with your questions and concerns, bills probably as well, at a taxpayer assistance center, but you do want to call for an appointment. Next item I have on there is what to do if you owe taxes but can't pay. You should always file your return, even if you don't have all the information even if you don't have all the money to pay your tax due, but you should always file because there's a penalty for failing to file, and that's higher, I believe, than the penalty for failing to pay. So you want to pay in full by the deadline of April 15th, and that way you'll reduce penalties and interest if you go ahead and file. Let's see. So, we have options for people if they can't pay what they owe. We have installment agreements. We have offer and compromise. So you definitely want to go ahead and file even if you can't pay all. Okay, the next item is payments. And that's going to take us into another section I wanted to talk about. And basically, I want to make sure folks know about the new stuff that's going on at IRS in terms of filing and modernizing payments. That's a big thing this year. And basically, it goes back to the executive order signed by the president back in March of 2025. And what that executive order says is payments sent by the federal government, including tax refunds, benefits, etc., and payments made to the federal government, including tax balance due, they should all be done electronically. So in terms of filing your tax return and getting a refund, we are advancing our systems so that people can get their refunds electronically, which we've been doing for a long time, but we're definitely, as part of this executive order, encouraging people to put their direct deposit information, their bank account, or their debit card information on their tax return when they file. And so if you don't have a bank account, that's something you should look into before you go ahead and file. You can, like I said, if you have a debit card, you can use that as long as it has a bank routing and transit information and a bank account number on it. You can use the debit card if you don't have a regular bank account. And so, you can go on irs.gov to learn about electronic payment options and available resources that are for taxpayers who don't have bank accounts. So if you file your return without a bank account on your return, and the IRS will send you a letter asking for that bank account information. And if the taxpayer does not respond to that letter that IRS will send out, they will go ahead after 4 weeks. We'll send out a paper check, but we will reach out to you to get that direct deposit information. And again, if you don't have it, we will mail it out, later, obviously. So it's going to delay your refund. But for this year at least, we're going to follow this process to mail out a paper check if you don't have bank account information. And again, there's a lot of information on irs.gov about what your payment options are. Now, probably when we get closer to the tax deadline, people will wonder about how they can go ahead and make tax payments if they have a balance due. So we've had a number of electronic payment systems available to us, to taxpayers, over the last few years. But what they can do this year is use their debit card or digital wallet or IRS Direct Pay. Those are all features we've had in the past. And we're trying to put on more payment options for taxpayers. So they can go ahead and use those options. But again, because we are transitioning to this no checks, so to speak, they can still mail in a check for the balance due, and we will take that. So anyway, that's kind of pretty much what we have for modernizing payments. And again, this is an effort government-wide where all agencies are moving to electronic payments. Okay, so what else do we have here? Okay. We have a section on the website for Identity Theft Central, and that is if someone has stolen your information to commit tax fraud. And we've got tips on how to prevent that and how to report it. And so there's links on irs.gov for Identity Theft Central to check out. And, it's one of those things where if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. With these scams that are out there, sometimes scammers, they try to get your personal financial information, and maybe you'd become a victim of identity theft. But be leery of those, and just know that the IRS will never initiate contact with taxpayers by email, text, or social media to request personal or financial information. We don't call taxpayers with threats of lawsuits or arrest, and we don't call or text to request taxpayers' identity protection PIN, which is something that is part of what people can do get one of these identity protection pins to avoid identity theft problems. And they can be requested on irs.gov on ID me. And of course, the next item I have here is the TAS, and we love TAS because, as we know, they do a great job and really can help taxpayers with their problems, and we work closely with them. The last bullet here that I have on this resource page is the one big, beautiful bill provisions. And there are a series of provisions that were put in the tax law, which just passed this past year. And there's three or four of them that I'm going to kind of go over. And they don't apply to everybody, but if they apply to in your situation, you definitely want to research it more. And again, all the provisions are on irs.gov, but I'm going to go over them briefly. The first one is called no tax on tips. The second one that we're going to talk about is no tax on overtime. And the third one is deduction for vehicle loan interest. And then the fourth one is the temporary enhanced senior deduction. And by the way, this is the wording on the tax law for all of these provisions. The first two, no tax on tips and no tax on overtime, that is, those are provisions with some guidelines to it and limitations for deductions that taxpayers who are eligible can file for those, as well as the deduction for vehicle loan interest. So those are items that were written into the law, and we do have a lot of information on our website about how to file for them and what they all mean. And certainly if you go to one of the tax help sites, the software or the free file, they will all work you through those provisions, as well as tax preparers that you might go to. But let's just go over them briefly. And the no tax on tips, again, new from the one big beautiful bill. What that entails is an individual who receives tip income or qualified tips received from 2025, and this provision goes through 2028. If they receive those tips, they may be eligible for a deduction up to $25,000 per year. That's the limit for the deduction. And then it begins to phase out when the modified adjusted gross income exceeds $150,000 or $300,000 for joint filers. Qualified tips are those received by also for a self-employed person are deductible only if the business's gross receipts are greater than its deductions. Employers, they have to report qualified tips on Form W-2, or employees report them on Form 4137. Any amount that does not meet the rules for qualified tips doesn't qualify for this deduction. To claim it, they can use either the standard deduction or they can itemize their deduction. And another provision is if a person is married, they can claim the no tax on tips deduction only if both spouses file a joint return. Okay, and there are designated businesses where a lot of the income comes from the skill or reputation of the owner or employees, like doctors, lawyers, athletes, etc. And qualified tips must be paid voluntarily by the customer and not be subject to negotiation. Let's see, what else I got? And another thing about tips is they do remain subject to what we call FICA taxes, which are for Social Security and Medicare. and also FUTA taxes, which are federal unemployment tax on employers. So that pretty much covers the no tax on tips provision, and we estimate that 6 million taxpayers may be affected by this provision. The next one that I have is no tax on overtime, and an individual can claim a deduction for qualified overtime pay received in tax years 2025 through 2028. And that's the same years as the no tax on tips provision is in place. So folks can deduct the qualified overtime pay that is above their regular rate of pay. For example, the half portion of time and a half as required by the Fair Labor Standards Act. The deduction for overtime is limited to $12,500 per year for single filers and $25,000 per year for joint filers. There are phase outs for this as well when the modified adjusted gross income exceeds $150,000 for single filers or $300,000 for joint filers. And we estimate that 58 million taxpayers nationwide may be subject to, may be eligible for this deduction. Okay, I'm going to move on to the third item that's new this year, and that is the deduction for vehicle loan interest. And for tax years, again, for tax years 2025 through 2028, same period as the other two provisions we just talked about, an individual can claim a deduction of up to $10,000 for interest paid or accrued on a loan taken after 2024 to buy a qualified passenger vehicle for personal use. There is a phase out for this. It's a little different than the others, but when the modified adjustment gross income exceeds $100,000 for single filers or $200,000 for joint filers. And a qualified passenger vehicle includes a new car, minivan, van, SUV, pickup truck, or motorcycle. Also, it has to be new, the vehicle, and has to have its final assembly in the United States. And the deduction is available for both itemizers and non-itemizers. We estimate that between 13 and 15 million taxpayers may be eligible for this no car loan interest. Okay, so the last thing that I have is that's new that we're talking about today is the enhanced senior deduction, which again is available for that 4-year period for tax year 2025 and going forward. A qualified individual can claim an additional $6,000 deduction on their tax return. And a qualified individual is any taxpayer who's age 65 or older by the end of the tax year. For a joint tax return, both spouses qualify if each is 65 or older. There is a phase out for this deduction, which is modified adjusted gross income if it exceeds $75,000 or $150,000 for joint filers. So that's pretty much the basics for the enhanced senior deduction. And that's pretty much what I wanted to cover. You know, we want folks to file a complete and accurate return. And we want them to be eligible for all the credits and deductions that they're entitled to. And remember, the deadline is April 15th, so it's coming up. Folks do have time to get help, but you know, it's time is awaiting. And definitely, if you think you're eligible, check out those tax provisions that are new this year. And that's all I have. I'll turn it back to my colleague at the Congressperson's office.
Thank you, Wendy and Kevin. That was wonderful. I do have one quick question. I know we've gone a long time, but I wanted to just clarify. The IRS is requesting and that people give electronic payment and electronic refund information, whether people are filing by e-file or paper returns. Is that right?
That
Okay.
we are requesting that, and again, we are trying to meet the mandate of the executive order. So if for some reason folks do not have direct deposit information, bank accounts, etc., they still can have the option, if you will, of getting a paper check, or the flip side of that is if they owe money, they can mail a payment in as they may have done in the past.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Thank you both for all of that wonderful information and taking the time to share it with us and our constituents. This concludes today's webinar. Please reach out to Congressman Tonko's office, as he said, if anybody has questions or issues with their federal tax returns. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.